Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/mother-in-laws from hell. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, reading some comments, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Responsible Self 886. Mother-in-law wants my daughter to call her Ma and wants me to pick other terms for mother for my daughter to call me. The drama never ends with this specimen. Every time she's gonna be in my vicinity, I get anxiety over what she's gonna do or say this time. I just had a daughter. At the time of writing this post, she is only 6 days old. My in-laws are in my city to visit the little one. I'm staying with my parents and my husband is staying with me for the time being to help me out. The mother-in-law said to my husband today, when it was just his parents and him, that she wants my daughter to call her Ma, and other terms for mother to me. Her reason being that she always wanted a daughter, and she only had sons. She has an elder son who had a daughter 3 years back, and she never had such an atrocious demand from him. Also, she always exclaims proudly how she is direct and likes talking to the person involved directly, and all that righteous bullshit. But she asked this from my husband, when the topic of Ma actually involves me, primarily, and not him. I asked my parents about their opinion, as they always give me unbiased opinions, and they too think that it is weird. My mom actually started laughing. I don't understand why she thinks it is okay to ask for this. And that too, from my husband. Update. 2 days later. The in-laws were over at my parents' place, where I am currently staying, for dinner the next day. I guess my husband spoke to mother-in-law about the Ma thing. I had asked him not to so that she would bring it up during one of her visits and I could have a talk with her about it. But I guess he knew that it would become an issue if I said anything and handled it on his own. Both father-in-law and mother-in-law were constantly saying grandma when referring to the mother-in-law while holding my daughter, maybe to show me that the point has been made. She did try something very petty, as expected of her. I was ignoring talking to her as much as I could. My mom had made a curry which I like to eat with a certain type of rice bread. I suggested to my husband that we should have that for the breakfast the next day. She immediately jumps in and says that the cook at the hotel they are staying at makes amazing rice breads, the one I mentioned, and asked my husband to have breakfast with them the next morning. She tried to make plans with my husband separately right after I already made plans with him in front of her. But the hubby shut it down, saying he can't come for breakfast and will come for lunch or dinner. I'm currently waiting for her to say something atrocious so I can shut her down and finally have a reason to cut her out of my life. So my naive ass thought that this would have been a more rare occurrence of a mother-in-law wanting the grandchild to call them mom. Turns out, no. Deleted user from a year ago comments, I'm just here to say my mother-in-law tried that and it didn't work. My grandmother, with the support of my grandfather, tried for 15 years to get her grandchildren to call her mom, and it never worked. She stopped one day when my little brother said to her, "Why do you call yourself mom?" My grandmother, "Because I want you to call me that." My brother, "You're not my mom." Grandmother got angry, and I, 14 years old at the time, told my brother that he was right, and that it was ridiculous. Never tried again. The staunch comments in response. What's up with in-laws trying to replace moms like they had plans to reproduce and finish their life off with their own kid? People should start calling this behavior with the nasty underlying meaning. Example, my sister-in-law, when I first got her brother, took me shopping. Tried to get me to buy a perfume she liked and told me, "My brother got this for me, but it smells so great. You should get it." I knew this was so she could later steal it from me, but I told her the last thing I wanted was to smell like my boyfriend's sister, trying to get laid. Told her, talk about a mood killer. My personal pet theory is that this behavior stems from the fact of well, I never got to experience this or I still want to experience this, and you're still young, so you can always have more children. Let me have this one. That's just my personal pet theory because as I'm seeing this behavior is not as uncommon as I originally hoped it would be. On an additional note, and this is more in general than anything else, and this does apply to OP, but their post was a year ago, so I'm not entirely sure how relevant this would still be. Hopefully, things have been patched up since then. But if you're existing with someone that directly causes you anxiety, and even just the mention that they'll be around later, you got to address that and nip that in the bud, because that is not a way to live. Like, don't curtail your happiness or your existence because you have to deal with a family member that's coming, or an in-law that's coming that's going to cause you stress and anxiety. In OP's case, directly talk to your husband about this, or talk with the family member directly, or hell, even just limit how much time that you're spending with them as much as possible to avoid those anxiety spikes. Especially if talking to them is not something that would be a productive use of your time. I mean, hell, we all have family members like that. But what would you do in a scenario like this, where your mother-in-law is actively asking for your children to call them their mother, and you, or your wife, to be called something other than their mom? How would that make you feel, just out of general curiosity? And how would you handle or approach that? Manix0729. This crazy bench. Censoring the title, LOL. I have a kind of weird situation, feel free to judge me, but no, I won't take it to heart because I fought and became healthy. So, for context, my 3 kiddos were taken from me because addiction issues. It needed to happen. I have zero anger or resentment towards the state. However, somehow, my mother-in-law, who is only biologically related to my youngest, got 1 visit a month. But I hated knowing they were going over there. For context, my boys are 6 and 7, are not supervised, and just handed Nintendo Switches, phones, and TV, and watch things that are not okay. Talk about gory stuff after leaving. Learn to flip people off over there. She makes them take Benadryl at night for no reason and basically just spent time with my daughter/youngest. Okay, so I think if I'm understanding correctly, the grandparents are essentially just handing the boys who are 6 and 7 Nintendo Switches, phones, and TV and just kind of letting them do whatever while giving all of her attention undivided to the daughter who's the youngest. Including also drugging the 6 and 7-year-old to make sure that they're out of the way during the grandma-granddaughter time. It's also worth reminding for additional context that the 2 boys are not biologically related to the mother-in-law. Well, come to find out, spoiler alert, we are now clean and have been for a while. From our case manager yesterday, in our reintegration meeting, I'm so proud and excited, man, that the last time my caseworker dropped my kids off at mother-in-law and stepfather-in-law, both of them pulled her aside to ask if we're cheating the UAs and hair follicle tests somehow, and my caseworker was like, no, they are literally watched while they pee in a cup. They are doing amazing. Why do they say this shit? Because I am zero contact and my partner is only in contact regarding work, family business. But anyways, this is the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I feel like they just see junkie plastered on our foreheads, and after fighting and successfully saving ourselves and doing every single thing for my babies to come home, it is so hurtful and devastating. Not to mention his mom has told their family that they'll happily adopt our daughter. Like, what the fuck? No, you won't. We will raise these kiddos. I can't stand mother-in-law and stepfather-in-law. I can't stand the absolute doubt, faith, and obvious way they're trying to create doubt about our work in progress. Update. 32 days later. I have finally been vindicated and my mother-in-law has been found out. I had this situation with my kids being in state's custody and loads of concerns and disgust towards mother-in-law and what happened during their visits. This gets, in my opinion, juicy. I'm sorry it's so long, but it's necessary details. So, good news first. My kids are in the process of coming home. They should be 100% home by the end of next month. Judge and DA made sure to commend us in court and recognize how hard it is to fight the battle and successfully gain custody back of our children. It was amazing. Just Oz comment here, massive congratulations. That is incredible and good work on fighting the addiction and fucking winning. Massive kudos. I don't remember if I clarified this in my last post, but mother-in-law fought the courts and was granted a grandparent's visit monthly. Realistically, the required visit is 1 hour, and this only stands until they're 100% home. However, my caseworker hasn't let my kids go over there since October. Why? Because my 6 and 7-year-old boys, who I always monitored internet access, were sent upstairs with their cousins, same age group, and given phones, iPads, and I had brought their Switches from home. I intentionally didn't hook their Switches up to the internet and asked her not to. Of course, she did it anyways. They had their day with us on Sunday. All 3 were there Friday through Saturday, and came home talking about explicit violence. Quick example, I'll cut your neck. Flipping us off, cussing and acting in a way I have never experienced. It was a lot. On top of that, my 6-year-old told me randomly that Nana uses one of those medicine syringes. My toddler had a fever and I was giving her Tylenol. at bedtime and gives us 4 gummies, Benadryl, and 4 melatonin. They are on an amazing schedule thanks to their amazing foster mother and have 0 issues sleeping, and she makes them sleep with her. Ugh. Now, they basically spent their whole time upstairs, unsupervised, and she just spent time with my baby, born in 0923, was feeding her whole slices of pepperoni pizza. What the fuck? On top of giving her cold medicine when she wasn't sick. Force held my baby when she screamed for 45 minutes because she didn't recognize her, and mother-in-law was pissed. There's more I'm forgetting off the top of my head. She's been blowing my caseworker up, wanting her visit. Whatever. But while I was sharing these major red flags with caseworker, foster mom was on the other side telling her the same thing. Foster mom had to block mother-in-law and refuses to do drop-offs because mother-in-law is rude to her, crosses boundaries, insults her, tried to tell her what to do with my kids, etc. I have personally been no contact since October as well. Well, after mother-in-law called my caseworker, she finally answered, and mother-in-law screamed at her on the phone. My caseworker was officially done dealing with her as a person and finally told me last week, at court, that mother-in-law is no longer allowed to be around my kids unsupervised, and that we have to supervise her visit. She gets one before my kids come home. At her house, while she tried to insult us as parents the whole time. My caseworker endorsed my decision to not allow the kids access to mother-in-law after I regain custody next month, and said family members like her do more harm to families, especially a healing family, than good. Ironically, she somehow had me kicked out of her visits during late winter to spring because I held my baby too much, and reinforced this and made us miss my baby's first Easter. And I'm back, baby! She no longer will be playing house with my baby and neglecting and drugging my sweet boys. She is under my supervision, and she gets a couple more hours with them before we take a very long silent break. Because she did so damn many nasty things to us during this process and has mistreated my children in ways they were never meant to experience. Happy holidays, you guys. I hope you guys find freedom from your monster in-laws, and I sincerely thank you all if you read this whole thing, because I've cut almost every person in my life off while recovering, and I'm so proud and happy that things are finally going right for my kids and my family. I just want to say once again, incredible kudos to OP. As I'm sure many of you are aware, I'm very much in the boat of not judging someone by how they fell, but by how they get up. And OP, most certainly, despite being dealt a bad hand and making nasty decisions and mistakes that they regret, they didn't hear no bell. And they got right back up and fought and fought and fought. And here they are, with their kids back in their custody, the caseworker giving them glowing reviews, the foster mother standing by their side, and the mother-in-law being kicked to the curb for the true person that she actually is. So good on you, OP. Now, there was an additional comment that I did see, which I thought would be important to include, just because this is something that did cross my mind, and I'm happy that someone brought it up in the comments. Painted Abacus comments, one thing I haven't seen anyone else mention, be very careful eating or drinking anything that's been in mother-in-law's presence. I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to drug you to get you to fail a drug test. You've come so far, and you're doing great. But please don't ever let your guard down if you haven't seen the full prep of anything you ingest. Manix0729, the OP, responds, I don't consume anything around her and bring and hold my own drinks. She tried to accuse me of using one point to my caseworker, and my caseworker was so annoyed and basically like, she literally is watched while she pees in a cup. And it goes to state lab. And she has clean hair follicles, and she's doing everything correctly. Mother-in-law was pissed, talked shit on caseworker for being snarky. I don't trust her even a tiny bit. She's nuts. And again, once more, nothing but my deepest congratulations to OP for winning against their addiction and getting their kids back. And out of curiosity, I thought I would check in with OP just to see how they've been recovering and if they've stayed true to themselves. And I'm more than happy to report that they've been on r/fentanyl recovery, giving others advice and helping them with their journey. They've also been commenting very often on various school and parenting subreddits about taking their kids through school and the journey that she's been going through, and also talking about the difficulties of trying to give a child with ADHD the best kind of education they can, and how at times it's been difficult, but they've been fighting through it, and it's been worth it. and talking with other parents and reporting their successes and areas where they feel like they might need help. They also have a gorgeous little cockatiel who apparently has its own little profession of being a barber. Apparently they will pluck and style hair to their heart's content. And judging by their feathers, they seem pretty happy. Good on you, OP, and I wish you the best moving forward. Throwaway 722021. Mother-in-law painted our new house. My fiance and I bought a house together, and I've been making small renovations before we move in. My in-laws have a key, since we're currently living in a different city during renovations, and they have offered to help with those renovations during the weekdays, since we're working full-time except weekends. Last weekend, my mother-in-law asked about what colors we're going to paint, and I said fiance and I picked out a few light colors and accent walls. She said, "That sounds nice, but I should consider eggshell white because it's easy to decorate with." She's a Martha Stewart normie type, which I respect for her life, but my fiance and I are both artists. Our current apartment is very colorful with our own murals and sculptures. I respectfully said, "Thank you for the advice, but we've decided carefully what we're going for." She again said that we should consider using colors with cushions, curtains, artwork, and not on the walls. I said, thanks, but we're confident about the colored walls. Frankly, it's been our dream to paint our walls because we don't have a landlord to ask permission from. She was being pushy, but left the conversation at that. Midweek, my fiance gets a call from his mom while he's at work. She's now asking him if she can go buy the eggshell white. He says no, and she says it's actually just primer. We hadn't primed all the areas, so he said, okay, she can buy primer if she likes. This past Saturday, my fiance and I carefully picked out our colors and bought the cans of paint. We get to the house, walk in, and it's eggshell white paint on the walls. My father-in-law was there, without mother-in-law, and asked if that's what we wanted, and I said no. And he got angry and said he had told his wife this isn't what we wanted, and they had fought about it, but she convinced him we said yes. He was angry with her too. I went back to our car, told my fiance I'm unhappy, and he said he understands and will get to repainting right away, and I can stay in the car for as long as I'd like. I just cried like a baby, frustrated over the lack of control in my own home. I considered taking their set of keys away. The house is repainted to our colors, but I don't trust her anymore. Update 1. Thank you guys for the advice. Fiance called mother-in-law today and told her point blank that what she did is not okay, is making it not feel like our house, and that she had been told we are doing colors twice before this happened. She says she got excited and enthusiastic and shouldn't have done it. She says she'll keep her suggestions to herself and doesn't take my fiance's conversation badly, that she knows she did wrong and said she's sorry. Fiance and I talked after about how I think he did a good job talking to her, even though I know it's uncomfortable since he normally avoids conflict. We talked about how, hopefully, this sets a good stage for our future of having kids too, that she will understand no means no. We're getting new locks installed regardless. I'm just happy this wasn't a story where OP suddenly had the entire family turn against them because they dared go against eggshell white. All hail eggshell white! But thankfully it was not the case where the entire family buckled to the mother-in-law's whims of eggshell white and, decided to actually stand their ground. Father-in-law being like, hey, I don't think that's what they want. And the fiancé actually standing his ground and confronting his mother about the fact that, hey, you can't just go and paint our house eggshell white when we specifically had colors in mind for what we wanted. And I am also happy the mother-in-law did back down and admit to their mistake. More often than not, because of the subreddit, that's not what we see. Instead, we see things escalate and burn to cinders and embers because of the fact they'll never back down and admit any kind of fault. No, you don't understand. The colors, you're just wrong, but you don't know it yet. Eggshell white's the way to go. You just need to see it on the walls first, and then you'll understand. I promise. Thankfully, though, we didn't get the second half of that. Only the first half, though, potentially. OK Pension 1451. Mother-in-law got mad and left our house 2 minutes after she found out. So, to preface, my mother-in-law and I have always had a rough relationship. But after I had my first child, we were able to look past things and be okay. Well, 3 years later, and I'm pregnant again. And over this time, I've been noticing the person she truly is. Obsessed and in love with her son, 33. manipulative, narcissistic, a liar, etc. She and I haven't talked since October 2024 because of uncalled for things she decided to say to me in a very long message. Despite not talking, she's still been coming over to visit with her son and our daughter, which is fine. I just don't engage in conversation with her or even look at her most of the time. Well, the last time she came over, her husband, my father-in-law, came as well. And I absolutely love him. We were sitting around the table, talking, minus me and her, and I mentioned to my husband about my brother and his wife babysitting our daughter while we go to the hospital to have our second child. She did not like that at all. She must have felt that it was going to be her watching our daughter, even though we've had my brother and wife picked out since before we had decided to try for a baby. And mind you, I'm due with this baby in about 2 weeks. As soon as I was done talking, she put her coat on and her shoes and told her husband they needed to leave. And my father-in-law was clearly not ready to leave, as he doesn't get to come visit as often with work/farm life. There are so many things I could share that my mother-in-law has done/said, but this just happened on February 14th, 2025. Our relationship is just as strained, and I genuinely do not want this woman in my life at all. But I know I have to suck it up for my husband and children to have a relationship with her. I just wish I didn't. And it, just so everyone knows, it's me choosing to not talk to her/look at her when she's around. She said very hurtful things to me in October, and I have no interest in talking with her anymore. This post is of course a bit older, and I did check OP's account to see if maybe we might get some more context as to what kind of stuff the mother-in-law was stating, but unfortunately, not much that I can find. I even tried to check their comments, but OP is very vague about it, leaving it just mostly that it was extremely hurtful, and the mother-in-law just tried to chalk it off as, oh, well, I didn't mean any of the things I said. But apparently they were hurtful enough for OP to just choose not to have any communication with mother-in-law beyond what is absolutely required. And there's no shame in keeping those details private. I just thought I'd take a look to see if maybe any light could be shined on it. I am additionally curious as to what makes her, narcissistic, liar, manipulative, and also the obsessed and in love with her son comment, which is only given a bit of credence from the fact that they visited on Valentine's Day. I don't know how common that is, but that does seem a bit interesting. Because in my family, at least, we don't really take Valentine's Day super seriously, unless it's with your significant other. Making it a family event seems off to me, personally. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that different families treat it differently. But there's also, of course, the additional thing to point out that upon learning that she wasn't going to be babysitting the grandchild while OP was giving birth, that was grounds enough in her mind to just simply walk away and leave. That upset her to that point to where she cut whatever she was planning short and even dragged the father-in-law, poor guy by the way, out of there. I think one quirky one has a pretty good comment to take a look at. Your husband is failing you. I have always set boundaries and pushed back on anybody behaving inappropriately towards my spouse. This is especially true for my family members because I hold them to a higher standard than I would a stranger. It is your husband's responsibility to step up, set boundaries, and challenge inappropriate behavior. His failure here is as much a part of the problem as your mother-in-law's behavior. I recommend couples counseling to clearly communicate his responsibility and your need for support. This is one of those hills to die on. That dreadful conversation in October should have resulted in a strong response from your husband. That behavior should exclude her from your house until appropriate behavior is demonstrated. The father-in-law should also step up because his relationship with his son and his son's family is negatively impacted by his wife's inappropriate tantrums. I will engage in a concise, private discussion if I believe my spouse is behaving inappropriately towards our children or their parents because my spouse learned some bad behavior from their horrible parents. OK Pension, the OP of the post, responds, I agree, but she said it to him so many times since October. I didn't mean any of what I said, and I apologized for it. Which, there was definitely some truth, in her eyes, to what she said to me. She did mean to say those things and hurt me, and he just wants to stay neutral in all of this. Him staying neutral is definitely a problem, because in the end, you can leave. The mother cannot. And hopefully he soon realizes that by him staying neutral, he's picking his mother. If you stay neutral in a conflict where someone's being the aggressor, you're siding with the aggressor. That's just how that is. Known Initiative 2878. Mother-in-law sends fiancé messages to leave me. You'll never believe what happens next. As the title says, Cotter's sending him messages saying it's not too late to leave me, for religious reasons. I obviously get upset and ask him to talk to her. He does, which results in nothing. Zero accountability or apologies for her, and in face, she doubles down and accuses me of being toxic, for even making him confront her about it. I decide enough is enough and tell him that I will not be visiting her for a while, which is exactly what I do for a couple months. After which he tells me she's really upset with me and is threatening to not attend our wedding if I don't visit. I tell him that's insane and get upset. He then tells me, "You know what? I don't like how upset you are, and I don't know how you might want to retaliate against my mom in the future, so if you want to be married to me, you are to sign legal documents stating you will not prohibit my mother from seeing her grandchildren or have a say in when she gets to see them." Need I say anything else? Huh? Am I crazy or are they? OP, they are in fact the crazy ones. What I think happened here is, after the conversation that the fiancé had with the mother, my guess would be is the mother probably broke down crying or had some kind of full of emotion conversation with her son about the fact of, look what she's doing now, she's not coming to see me because of what I said to you. Just imagine what she'll do in the future with the grandkids. I don't want to lose my grandkids. Now the son, worried for his mother, starts wondering, well, what can we do to make sure this won't happen? Well, we could just sign some legal documents that states that she can't prevent the grandkids from seeing me, or that she can't stop me from seeing them. And now the son, having been manipulated, falls for it and brings this up to his wife. And the mother gets what she wants, no matter what. Either A, she doesn't sign the documents and her son leaves, or B, the documents are signed and she gets unfettered access to the grandchildren. No matter what, no matter how damaging it could end up being. This is a trap. Be careful, and honestly, my biggest recommendation if your fiancé can't see what's going on, and by that I mean he's not willing to go to therapy or willing to see what's going on or listen to you or just simply take a broader scope of the situation, then it might honestly just be best to give the mother-in-law exactly what she wants and walk away and just leave the relationship. Because this woman is going to be a bane to your existence and hell to deal with. If it's safe for you to walk away and your finances aren't intertwined or you don't have anything that's keeping you two together, I would recommend start looking for a way out. Be careful and stay safe. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.